So the story that comes to mind for me is when I was living in Calgary, Alberta. My ex-wife at the time, well, she was my wife at the time, and I were looking for a place to live. And at the time in the city, you literally could not rent or buy a home fast enough. There was more people and not enough housing, which is something I had never experienced. And we were renting a room with one of her friends. So we decided to go to this metaphysical store there called the Divine Mind. And we got a reading by an intuitive. And I had never had an intuitive reading, and she had never had one, so we thought, why not just try it? So we went and had this reading, and she gave us 30 minutes each. And she explained to us that the session is when she talks to angels and they guide us. And she had asked us what we were wanting to know, and we had said we were looking for a place to live and we wanted guidance with that. And what she came up with was that we would have to go to a neighborhood called Dalhousie. My wife didn't know anything about Dalhousie, and the intuitive didn't know anything about Dalhousie. And of course I didn't, being from the States. I knew very little about Calgary. So she told us that you're not going to find this online. You're going to have to actually physically go there. So she said, I don't know anything about Dalhousie. That's just what it's telling me. But that would be my suggestion. So the next day I looked up a coffee shop that happened to be there in that area and thought, well, why don't we go get coffee and we'll just check the area out. So I found a coffee shop, and we got up the next day, headed there, and on the way to the coffee shop, I happened to glance over to the left and saw a chair in the snow with a sign on it saying for rent. Now, I had given my wife an idea of what I wanted. I wanted a driveway, which they don't have a lot up there. They have alleyways. I wanted a fireplace and all this other stuff, and she's like, you're not going to find all that. And we just kind of laughed about it. So she looked at me and said, well, why don't we turn around and call the number on the sign? So I turned around, pulled into the driveway. She walked up to the sign, got the number, talked to the landlady, who was an elderly woman, who had said she had already rented the house, but she felt the need to come see us. So if we wanted to take a look at it, we could. She came to the house, showed us the house, which happened to be the exact layout of my parents' home, had the fireplace, had a driveway, had everything we had wanted and more. And as she took us through the home, she said to us, if you want it, you can have it. And she's like, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't normally rent like this. And not expecting to find a house that day, I didn't have the deposit. And I told her that I don't have the deposit right now. I can get it for you, but I don't have it right now. And she said, again, that's okay. She's like, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to rent this house to you guys. So as we were walking out, we had agreed to take the house. I agreed to get her the deposit as soon as I could. And as we were walking out, the man that she had already rented, or told that she had rented the house to, was there with a deposit check. And she looked at him and said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be renting to these folks. And it was just mind-blowing. So we left with a house, totally unplanned. And that was the day after we went and saw the intuitive at the Divine Mind. We never made it to the coffee shop, and that was called Euphoria Cafe. And we were going to go back to the Divine Mind to let the intuitive know that the information she gave us was dead on. But I said, let's go to the coffee shop before we go there. So we ended up going to the coffee shop, and I noticed that they feature artists monthly. They, switch them out. So I decided to talk to the manager and say, hey, I noticed you feature artists. I'm an artist. And him and I got to talking, and I showed him my artwork. And he said, yeah, I don't have anything available this month, but if you want something later, we can set something up. And I said, okay. And we left. And then on the way back to the Divine Mind, to let the intuitive know she had given us great information, I get a phone call from the manager of the coffee shop. And he said, you know what? There's just something about you and your story and your artwork. And I want to give you a wall. And I said, oh, great. Something opened up. And he said, no. We're going to be expanding, and I'm going to give you a wall forever, for as long as you want it. Like it's your artist wall. And I was just blown away. So 2 days ago, we didn't know where we were going to live. We didn't have a place to live. I didn't even know how I would get my art exposed in Calgary. And here we were with this beautiful home, more space than we needed, an art studio, and now a place to display my art indefinitely. All from listening to a message from a guided intuitive and trusting in what was being told to us. And we went back to the Divine Mind, and when I walked in, the intuitive happened to be standing there, and she was smiling, and we walked over to her, and we gave her a big hug, and we said, thank you. I said, everything you told us came true. We physically went to Dalhousie, and we move into our new place in the first of the year. And it all happened because of you and yesterday. And she got goosebumps and said, the angels just want to say thank you for listening. And it was the greatest lesson for me. I had always listened to the messages of the universe, but that was the greatest lesson for me, to really trust the messages that come to you in any way, shape, or form that they come, and go with your gut and your intuition, and if it resonates with you, follow through, and you will be amazed at what the universe will bring to you. The plans are so much grander than we could have ever imagined. We would have never been able to think up that house in that neighborhood that way, and yet it all came together perfectly. So, the universe is always talking to you. My question is, are you always listening?